Hey there, folks. If anyone's still out there picking up this signal, this is Avery, coming to you live, or as live as it gets these days, from the dusty old studios of 107.3 FM. Once upon a time, this was my workplace, a bustling little hub of music and chatter. Now, it's my fortress, my last stand against whatever's gone wrong out there. I'm holed up in the broadcast booth, surrounded by cracked equipment and a barricade of furniture I hauled into place myself. If you're hearing me, consider it a lifeline, a sign that someone's still here, still talking, still holding on. Let's set the scene. The station's mostly dark, save for a couple of flickering emergency bulbs and a lantern I've got running on batteries I scrounged from the supply closet. The air's thick with the smell of stale coffee and dust, the kind that settles when no one's left to stir it up. My producer's desk sits empty across the room. No one's there to rib me about flubbing the intro anymore. It's just me, a microphone, and the hum of a dying power grid. Outside this booth, I hear things sometimes. Footsteps echoing down the hall, a faint scratching at the walls, noises that don't sound quite human. I've got the door locked tight, reinforced with a shelf and a couple of chairs, but it doesn't stop the chills from creeping up my spine. I'm calling this Night Owl Radio, not because I know it's night out there, no windows in here, and my phone's clock gave up the ghost yesterday, but because it's got a ring to it, something cozy to cling to. If you're tuned in, I hope it feels like a friend whispering through the static. I don't know how far this signal reaches or who's left to hear it, but if you're out there, hang in there with me. Let's keep each other company for as long as the lights stay on. So how'd we get here? Let me take you back a week or so. It's hard to keep track anymore. Things started unraveling with whispers on the airwaves, reports trickling in about strange behavior across the city. People acting wild, aggressive, like they'd lost their grip on reality. At first, it was just noise, another overhyped story we laughed about over lukewarm coffee in the break room. Zombie apocalypse, huh? My co-host Regina said, rolling her eyes. We didn't know then that the punchline would hit so hard. But the rumors turned real fast. Neighbors started banging on doors, screaming for help. Sirens wailed day and night, a soundtrack to the chaos. Regina and I tried to keep the station running, digging for updates from the cops or city officials, but the phone lines clogged up and cell signals dropped like flies. Then one day, our station manager, Victor, burst in, pale as a ghost, telling us to lock everything down and stay put. Regina's face froze in a way I'd never seen before, wide-eyed, like she'd glimpsed the end. We barricaded ourselves in the break room, huddling around any TV or radio we could tune in, desperate for a shred of news. The warnings came thick and fast. Stay inside, avoid anyone acting off, don't open your door for strangers. Easier said than done when the whole city seemed to catch fire with panic. In a matter of days, it went from a weird rumor to a full-blown nightmare. Victor vanished, said he'd be back with help, but that was the last we saw of him. Regina stuck it out with me for a while, but then she couldn't take it anymore. I've got to check on my family, she said, pulling me into a quick, fierce hug. I'll bring supplies. I'll be back. I told her to stay safe, but the words felt flimsy, like tossing a paper shield against a storm. She walked out, and the door clicked shut behind her. That was days ago. I've been alone ever since. Now here I am, spinning tales into the void instead of records. The music server's on the fritz, figures, right? So talking's all I've got left. I'd love to play you some old hits, something to lift the mood, but the best I can do is keep my voice steady and hope it reaches you. The booth's my bunker. Soundproof walls, a thick glass panel looking out to a sliver of hallway, no windows to the outside world. I've dragged a couple of tables in front of the door for extra security. Every now and then, I catch a shadow drifting past the glass, slow, aimless figures that sometimes pause, pressing a hand against it. I hold my breath, praying they don't see me. So far, they haven't lingered long enough to try. Today's haul? I raided the lounge area for anything edible, scored a handful of energy bars, a half-empty case of bottled water, and some instant coffee packets that taste like regret. It's not a buffet, but it'll keep me going. I've set up camp in here with the basics. My lantern, a flashlight I found under a desk, and this mic that's become my lifeline. The generator's still coughing along somewhere in the basement, but it's on borrowed time. The city's power flickers like a candle in the wind. 1 minute it's there, the next it's gone. I'm doing my best to keep this place humming, but I'm no tech wizard. If that thing dies, I don't know what I'll do. A little while ago, I had a scare that nearly stopped my heart. Heavy pounding rattled the main station door, like fists or something worse, hammering to get in. I sat here, clutching the edge of the desk, trying to breathe without making a sound. Then, just as quick as it started, it stopped. Silence swallowed the noise, and I couldn't bring myself to check what caused it. Peering through the booth's glass, I caught a glimpse of someone or something in a tattered station uniform, maybe an old intern or a staffer from upstairs. They stood there, head cocked like they were listening, before shuffling off into the dark. I didn't dare move until the coast was clear. That's when it hit me. If there was ever a chance to run, it's long gone. Leaving now might be a death sentence. Staying? Well, it's not much safer, but at least I've got walls and a signal. For now, I'm sticking to what I can manage. I talk, you listen, if you're out there, and that's our tether. I found an old photo tucked away in the producer's office. Me, Regina, and the crew, grinning like fools in front of the station's big sign. We just hit a listener milestone, and Regina was rocking that loud red sweater she loved. Looking at it stung. Where is she now? Did she make it to her family? I've got to believe she's out there, safe somewhere, maybe even tuning in. Memories like that keep me grounded, remind me what I'm fighting for. If you've got your own people on your mind, hold them close in your thoughts. Let that warmth push you through the cold. I've been messing with an old shortwave receiver I dug out of a drawer. It's picking up faint blips, snatches of voices, numbers, then nothing but static. Could be survivors, could be an emergency channel, could be my imagination playing tricks. I've been jotting down what I hear, hoping to crack some kind of code. Sometimes it's a word, hold, maybe, but it slips away before I can lock it down. If you've got a radio, scan the bands. Maybe you'll catch something too. There's a chance others are out there, doing what I'm doing, reaching through the noise to say, we're still here. Earlier, I got desperate for a snack and crept into the hallway. Kept the lights off, moving like a ghost, ears straining for any sound. Halfway to the vending machine, I heard it, a soft scrape, like nails on tile. I flattened myself against the wall, heart thumping so loud I swore it'd give me away. A shadow passed maybe 20 feet ahead, hunched, dragging its feet. Torn clothes, no hurry, just drifting. It turned my way for a second, and I thought I was done for, but it kept going, vanishing around a corner. I grabbed some chips and gum and bolted back here, adrenaline buzzing. If you're hiding out somewhere, stay put unless you've got no choice. I got lucky, but luck's a thin thread to hang on. Back in the booth, I picked up a weird crackle on the receiver, too regular to be random. Morse code? A signal? I'm no expert, but I'm keeping it on, scribbling notes. If it's someone reaching out, I want to catch it. The idea that there's a group out there, barricaded and broadcasting like me, keeps me going. Even if I never find them, it's a comfort to imagine. I flipped through some old mail piled up in the front office, letters from listeners, back when life made sense. One was from a woman who said our morning show got her through losing her job. She'd tune in at 7 a.m., laughing at Regina's quips and my dumb traffic rants. I hope she's okay, wherever she is. Her words hit me hard, proof that voices like mine can still matter, even now. It feels like night, though I can't be sure. The silence outside is heavy, broken only by faint thumps in the distance. I'm keeping my voice low, the booth's soundproof, but I'm not taking chances. Those footsteps out there? They're my unwanted neighbors, and I'm banking on them not knowing I'm here. For now, I'll rest, but I'll be back. Keep your radios on, folks. This is Avery, signing off, but not for good. We've got more to say, you and me, as long as this signal holds. The station's holding together by a thread. The generator down in the basement is wheezing like an old man on his last lap, and I'm rationing what little I've got left. A couple of energy bars, a dwindling stash of water bottles, and a lantern that's starting to flicker. The city's power grid is a ghost, on 1 minute, off the next, and I'm relying on that shaky machine to keep this signal alive. Every buzz and sputter from it sends my stomach twisting. If it quits, this mic goes dead, and I don't know what I'll do without this lifeline to you. Last time, I told you about the noises, those eerie footsteps and scratches echoing through the halls. They haven't stopped. Sometimes I'll be sitting here, scribbling notes or sipping stale coffee, and I'll hear it, a slow shuffle, a tap against the wall, like something's testing the edges of my world. I peek through the booth's glass panel when I dare, catching glimpses of shadowy forms drifting by. They move like they're lost, pausing now and then as if they sense me. I keep still, barely breathing, until they pass. So far, they haven't tried the door, but I've piled more junk against it just in case. A busted chair, a metal filing cabinet I dragged over with shaking hands. It's not much, but it's something. I've been thinking about Regina a lot lately, my co-host, my partner in crime. She'd be cracking jokes right now if she were here, cutting through the tension with that big, bright laugh of hers. Before she left to check on her family, we were the last two standing in this place. We tried to keep the show going, patching together updates from patchy news feeds, but the lines went silent and the world outside turned upside down. Her last words to me were a promise. I'll be back with supplies, Avery. Hang tight. I can still feel the squeeze of her hug, the way she tried to sound brave. I've got no clue if she made it, but I'm clinging to the hope she's out there, hunkered down somewhere safe, maybe even listening. If you're hearing this, Regina, I'm still here. Don't give up on me. The booth's my sanctuary, but it's starting to feel like a cage. The walls are lined with acoustic foam, swallowing sound, and the glass gives me a narrow view of the hallway, a lifeline and a curse. I've got my setup, the mic, the lantern, a notebook where I jot down every little thing to keep my head straight. But I can't ignore the truth. I'm running out of time. The generator's dying, and I've got to do something about it. Sitting here waiting for the lights to go out isn't an option. So today, I made a call. I'm going to venture out, just a little, to see if I can find a way to keep this place running. First, I took stock. I rummaged through the lounge again, scraping together anything useful, a dented flashlight, a half-empty pack of batteries, a screwdriver I found under a couch cushion. Not exactly a survival kit, but it'll have to do. I've been hearing the generator's groans louder through the vents, so I figure it's in the basement. If I can get down there, maybe I can figure out what's wrong, or at least find a backup plan. The idea of leaving this booth makes my palms sweat, but if I don't, we're all sunk. Yumi, this signal, it's all we've got. I cracked the booth door open earlier, just enough to listen. The hallway was quiet, too quiet, like the building was holding its breath. I slipped out, flashlight off to save the juice, creeping along the wall with my heart in my throat. The emergency lights cast a faint red glow, barely enough to see by. Papers littered the floor, old playlists, memos, stuff from a life that feels a million miles away. I passed the break room, its door hanging crooked, and caught a whiff of sour milk from a fridge no one's opened in days. No movement, no sound, just me and the shadows. The stairs to the basement were around the corner, a dark maw waiting to swallow me whole. I took them slow, one hand on the railing, the other gripping that screwdriver like it was a sword. The air got damp as I descended, thick with the smell of rust and something wet. The generator's hum grew louder, a sickly rattle that vibrated through the floor. I found it in a cramped room off to the side, behind a heavy steel door with dents that made me wonder what had tried to get in or out. Inside, the thing looked like a relic, dusty, patched with fraying tape, its control panel blinking feebly. I'm no mechanic, but even I could tell it was running on fumes. A gauge showed the fuel tank was nearly dry, maybe a day left, if I'm lucky. I poked around, hoping for a miracle. There was a maintenance closet nearby, shelves sagging with random junk, a mop, some bleach, a busted old radio with a snapped antenna. No spare fuel, no magic fix. I checked behind the shelves, under a pile of rags, nothing. The reality sank in. If I want to keep this station alive, I've got to find more juice or a whole new setup. I remembered something from orientation years back, Victor mentioning an emergency generator stashed somewhere. Maybe in the shipping area upstairs. It's a long shot, but it's all I've got. Getting there means crossing the building, 2 floors up, and through who knows what. Every step's a risk, but sitting still's a bigger one. I was about to head back when I heard it, a slow, dragging sound from the hallway above. My blood turned ice. I pressed myself against the basement wall, peering up the stairs. A silhouette flickered under the dim light, moving like it had all the time in the world. I couldn't see much, just a torn sleeve, maybe part of an old station jacket, but it stopped, head tilting like it heard me. I didn't breathe, didn't blink, just waited. After what felt like forever, it let out a low, raspy sound, half groan, half sigh, and shuffled off. I stayed put until the echoes faded, then bolted back to the booth, slamming the door behind me. Back on air now. I'm shaken, but still here. That encounter rattled me. I thought I was done for. Whatever's out there, it's not friendly, but it didn't spot me this time. I'm kicking myself for turning back, though. The shipping area is still out there, and if that backup generator's real, it's my lifeline. I've got to try again, but I need a plan. Rushing blind won't cut it. I found a key ring in the producer's desk while I was catching my breath, unlabeled, but one might fit. It's a gamble, but I'll take it. Let's pause for a second, folks. I've been running on adrenaline, and it's wearing me thin. I keep thinking about the old days, Regina and me bantering over the mic, interns buzzing around with coffee and bad puns. There was this kid, Jeremy, so quiet you'd miss him until he dropped a zinger that'd have us all in stitches. I hope he's okay, him and the rest of the crew. Those memories are my anchor, keeping me from losing it in this glow. If you've got your own family, friends, a dumb joke from better times, hold on to them. They're the fuel we need when the tank's running low. I messed with the shortwave again, chasing those faint signals. Caught a snatch of something numbers, maybe a voice saying east, before it drowned in static. I'm logging it all, hoping it's not just noise. If you're out there with a radio, keep scanning. Maybe we'll find each other through the haze. There's got to be others holding on, right? The thought keeps me going. Before I sign off, here's the deal. I'm gearing up for another run. The shipping area is my target, and I'll take the keys, the flashlight, the screwdriver, whatever I can carry. I'll record what happens on a little handheld device I found. Patch it in later if I make it back. The generator's still limping along, but it won't last. If I don't move soon, we're toast. So wish me luck, folks. This is Avery, stepping out of the booth and into the unknown. Stay tuned. I'll be back with the story, one way or another. The generator in the basement is on its last legs, coughing and sputtering like it's begging for a break. I can hear it through the vents, a death rattle that keeps me up at night, or what I think is night, since time's a blur in here with no windows and a dead phone. The city's power grid is a memory, and this old machine's all that's keeping the lights on, the mic live. I've got a handful of water bottles left, a couple of crumbs from my last energy bar, and a lantern that's dimming by the hour. Staying put and hoping for a miracle isn't cutting it anymore. I had to move, had to take a risk, and that's what I did today. Last time, I told you I was gearing up to head for the shipping area, somewhere upstairs where I vaguely remember Victor, our station manager, mentioning an emergency generator years ago. It's a hazy memory from a staff meeting I barely paid attention to, but it's the best lead I've got. I grabbed what I could, a flashlight with a shaky beam, a screwdriver for whatever trouble I might run into, and a ring of keys I fished out of the producer's desk. No labels, just a hunch one might fit. I also snagged a little handheld recorder, figured I'd capture what happens out there and patch it in later if I make it back. Spoiler, I'm here, talking, so I survived. But it wasn't easy. Stepping out of the booth felt like walking off a cliff. I cracked the door just enough to peek out, listening hard. The hallway was dead still, bathed in the weak red glow of emergency lights that flickered like they were on their last breath. I slipped out, locking the door behind me, and stuck a note on it with a marker I found. Avery, gone to find parts. Back soon. If Regina or anyone sane stumbles in, I want them to know I didn't bail. The corridor stretched out ahead, littered with junk. Overturned chairs, a spilled coffee mug, papers curling at the edges. It smelled like dust and despair, a tomb of what this place used to be. I moved slow, hugging the wall, flashlight off to save the battery. My shoes squeaked on the tile, and I winced at every sound. The plan was simple. Head up 2 floors, cut across to the shipping area near the back of the building, and pray I'd find something worth the trip. I hit the stairwell first, a narrow spiral of concrete that echoed every step. The air grew heavier as I climbed, like the station was pressing down on me. Halfway up, I froze. A low, scraping noise drifted from above, like something dragging across the floor. My pulse hammered in my ears. I flattened myself against the railing, peering into the dimness. A shape appeared under the flickering light, a figure in a shredded station uniform, maybe one of the old techs or an intern. It moved like it was sleepwalking, one arm dangling, head cocked at a weird angle. It stopped, and I swear it turned my way, like it sensed the air shift. I held my breath, gripping the screwdriver so tight my knuckles ached. For a long, awful moment, it just stood there, letting out a ragged wheeze that scraped my nerves raw. Then it shuffled off into a side room, and the silence swallowed it up. I waited until I was sure it was gone, then crept past, every nerve screaming to run back to the booth. But I didn't. I couldn't. You're counting on me, right? The shipping area was on the 2nd floor, tucked behind a maze of corridors I used to navigate without a thought. Now it felt like a haunted house. Dark corners, busted light fixtures dangling like skeletons, a toppled snack cart blocking my path. I edged around it, wincing as the cart's wheel squeaked. At the end of the hall, I saw it, a heavy metal door, half hidden by a pile of junk, cardboard cutouts from some old promo event, a cracked shelf, debris I couldn't name. The sign above it was faded, but I could just make out shipping, 2nd floor. This had to be it. I shoved the mess aside as quiet as I could, my hands shaking from the effort. The door loomed ahead, solid and unyielding, with a rusty lock staring me down. I fumbled with the key ring, trying one after another. First one, nothing. Second, stuck halfway. Third time's the charm. It slid in smooth, and with a click that echoed too loud, the lock gave. I pushed the door open just enough to slip through, the hinges groaning like they hadn't moved in years. Inside, the air was thick with dust, motes swirling in the faint beam of my flashlight when I finally flicked it on. The room was a jumble of crates and boxes, some stamped with the station's logo, others unmarked and sagging with age. A forklift sat dead in the corner, its battery long gone. I scanned the stacks, heart pounding with a mix of dread and hope. Then I saw it. A big wooden crate near the back, stenciled with emergency gen, R 3500. My breath caught. This was it, the backup generator Victor had bragged about way back when. I scrambled over, running my hands over the rough wood. It was nailed shut, but I had the screwdriver. I wedged it under the lid and pried, splinters digging into my palms. The nails squealed as they gave, and the top popped loose. Inside was a compact generator, smaller than the beast in the basement, but shiny enough to look unused. Strapped to its side was a little fuel can, dented but sealed. I almost laughed, a shaky sound that bounced off the walls. It wasn't a full tank, maybe enough for a few hours or a day if I stretched it, but it was something. I checked the machine over. Dusty, sure, but the parts looked intact. No manual, but there were some basic instructions etched on the side. If I could get this back to the booth or down to the basement, we might have a fighting chance. Getting it out was the hard part. The thing had wheels, thank God, but they were stiff, and it weighed a ton. I tugged it free of the crate, grunting as I rolled it toward the door. Every squeak of those wheels felt like a siren, and I kept glancing over my shoulder, waiting for trouble. I made it to the hallway, dragging it behind me like a stubborn mule. The corridors were still empty, but the quiet felt wrong, like the building was watching me. I decided to stash it in a small office near the stairs, close enough to move later, far enough from the basement to test without drawing attention. Back in the booth now, I'm buzzing with adrenaline and relief. I hauled that generator halfway across the station, and I didn't get caught. Not yet, anyway. I haven't hooked it up. That's next. But I tested it in the office with the little fuel from the can. It sputtered at first, making me curse under my breath. But then it kicked on, a steady hum that lit up a desk lamp I plugged in for kicks. The glow felt like a miracle. If the basement generator dies, this could keep us going. Not forever, but long enough to figure out what's next. I've got to be honest, though, something spooked me on the way back. As I was locking the booth door, I caught a glimpse of a figure in the hall, just standing there under the dim light. It didn't move, didn't shuffle like the others. Dark clothes, swaying a little, like it was waiting. I froze, watching through the glass, my skin prickling. Then it stepped back into the shadows and was gone. No sound, no trace. Was it a survivor? Something else? I don't know, and it's gnawing at me. This place isn't empty, and whatever's out there knows I'm here. Let's take a breather, folks. I keep thinking about the old days. Regina and me hosting that community day in the parking lot, local bands jamming, interns like Emily passing out muffins she'd baked. Those moments feel like a dream now, but they're why I'm doing this. If you've got your own slice of the past to hold on to, a song, a laugh, a face, let it keep you warm. We're not just surviving, we're remembering why it matters. The shortwave's still spitting out snippets, faint voices, static, maybe a pattern. I'm logging it, hoping it's a sign of life. If you're out there, keep scanning. For now, I've got a generator to move and a station to save. This is Avery, signing off, but not checking out. Stay with me, we're not done yet. The basement generator's on life support, rattling like a junkyard car about to give up the ghost. I can feel its vibrations through the floor, a countdown I can't ignore. The city's power grid is long gone, leaving me with a handful of water bottles, a flashlight that's more prayer than promise, and a signal that's my only tether to you. That backup generator I found in the shipping area. It's my golden ticket, but it's not doing any good sitting in an upstairs office. I had to get it down to the basement, hook it up, and pray it'd keep this station alive. Easier said than done, but I'm still here talking, so let's rewind and walk through it. Last time, I hauled that machine, our 3500, according to the crate, halfway across the station and stashed it in a small room near the stairs. It's a compact thing, dusty but functional, with a little fuel can strap to it that's maybe half full. I'd tested it up there, and it hummed to life, lighting a lamp and giving me a rush of hope. But to really save us, it needed to tie into the station's system, down where the old generator's dying. That meant moving it again, 2 floors down, through corridors that feel more like a trap every time I step out. I couldn't put it off any longer. The basement beast was fading fast. I prepped like my life depended on it, because it did. I grabbed the flashlight, the screwdriver, that key ring from the producer's desk, and a coil of extension cord I found in a closet. The handheld recorder came too. I've been taping these outings so you'll know what happens if I don't make it back live. I scribbled a quick update on my booth note. Avery, moving generator to basement. Hold tight. If Regina or someone stumbles in, they'll see I'm still fighting. Then I cracked the door, took a deep breath, and stepped into the hallway. The station was a shadowland, dim red emergency lights casting long, jittery shapes across the walls. The air smelled like mildew and metal, heavy with the weight of abandonment. I rolled the generator behind me, its stiff wheels grinding against the tile. Every squeak echoed like a gunshot, and I kept my head on a swivel, expecting trouble. The stairwell loomed ahead, a tight spiral dropping into darkness. I bumped the machine down step by step, wincing as it clattered, my arms burning from the strain. The basement air hit me like a wet rag, damp, cold, and thick with the generator's sickly roar. I got it to the little room where the old machine sat, its control panel blinking like a tired eye. The backup looked puny next to it, but it was my only shot. The plan was to swap them out, shut down the dying one, patch in the new one, and hope I didn't screw it up. I'm no electrician. I fumbled through soundboards, sure, but this was a whole different beast. The R3500 had a basic guide etched on its side: connect this, ground that, and I'd snagged a wiring diagram from a drawer upstairs. It wasn't much, but it'd have to do. Here's where it got hairy. I had to kill the old generator first, flip the switch and plunge the station into black. I set up my lantern and flashlight, their beams cutting through the gloom, and took a long look at the panel. My hand shook as I reached for the cutoff. One flick, and the hum died. Silence crashed in, heavy and absolute. The lights winked out, leaving me in a pool of battery glow. My heart thudded so loud I could hear it, but I didn't have time to panic. I yanked the main cables loose, matching them to the backups ports: neutral here, ground there, live wire last. A spark popped, and I cursed under my breath, but nothing blew up. Progress. I poured the fuel can's contents into the R3500, my nose wrinkling at the sharp gasoline smell. The tank was small, maybe a day's worth if I ran it lean. I primed the engine, following the scratched instructions, and hit the start button. It coughed once, twice, and I held my breath, willing it to catch. Then it roared. Well, purred, really, a steady buzz that felt like a victory cheer. I patched it into the system, fumbling with the cords, and waited. A flicker ran through the basement lights, then steadied. Back in the booth now, I can tell you it worked. The mix live, the signal's holding. We're not fully lit, just a few bulbs and the essentials, but it's enough. I'm exhausted, folks, but I can't shake the high of pulling this off. The old generator's silent now, a hulking relic I left to rot. The new one's a stopgap. It won't last forever with that little fuel can, but it's bought us time. I locked myself back in here, barricade intact, and took a minute to breathe. The station's still a maze of shadows, the lone bulb outside my glass panel dancing with every gust through the vents. But we're not dead yet, and that's something to celebrate. Of course, it's never that simple. On my way back from the basement, I saw something that's still gnawing at me. I was hauling the recorder, ready to collapse, when a silhouette caught my eye down the hall. It wasn't moving, just standing there, draped in dark, ragged clothes, swaying like a broken metronome. I froze, half hidden by a corner, watching it through the gloom. It didn't shuffle or groan like the others I'd seen. It just was, like it was listening for me. My skin crawled. Then, slow as death, it stepped back into the dark and vanished. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. I bolted to the booth, slamming the door, and I've been jumping at every creak since. What was it? Another survivor? Too scared to call out? Something worse? I don't know, and it's twisting my gut. This place isn't empty, I've known that, but now it feels like it's watching me, waiting for me to slip. That figure wasn't random, it felt deliberate. I keep replaying it, wondering if I should have said something, risked a hello. But instinct screamed to stay quiet, and I listened. Maybe that's why I'm still here. Let's shift gears for a sec, folks. I need it as much as you do. I keep thinking about the crew, Regina's laugh, the way she teased me about my coffee obsession, Emily, the intern who'd bring those lumpy muffins that somehow tasted like home. We had a community gig once, out in the lot, bands playing, kids running around, the smell of burgers on the grill. It's a lifetime ago, but it's fuel for my soul. If you've got a memory like that, a warm day, a dumb joke, lean into it. It's armor against the cold out there. The shortwave's still buzzing with ghosts, faint voices, a rhythm in the static I can't crack. I caught hold fast once, or thought I did, before it drowned in noise. I'm logging it, scribbling times and frequencies. If you're scanning, look for patterns. Someone's out there, I bet on it, and I'm not giving up on finding them. This signal's our bridge, yours and mine, and I'll keep it standing as long as I can. So what's next? The fuel's my bottleneck. The can's near empty, and this generator won't run on hope. I could stretch it a couple days if I power down between broadcasts, but that risks losing you. Or I could go outside, hit the streets, siphon a car, find a gas station. It's a gamble that makes my stomach lurch, but sitting here waiting to fade out isn't an option. I found an old city map in a drawer, marked a few spots, a garage nearby, a couple of pumps, maybe an emergency depot. It's a start, but stepping out there's a whole new game. Before I wrap, I heard something odd, a distant wail, like a siren, cutting through the quiet for 10 seconds before it died. A cop car? An alarm? It's the first sign of the outside world in days, and it lit a spark in me. Maybe someone's fighting back out there, or maybe it's just the city's last gasp. Either way, it's proof life hasn't stopped, it's just changed. This is Avery, signing off for now. The backup's humming, the mix hot, and I'm still in the fight. Next step's fuel, and I'll need all the luck you can send. Stay tuned, friends, we're not fading out yet. The backup generator's humming along, a lifeline I rigged up last time after dragging it to the basement and patching it into the system. It's keeping the booth lit and the signal alive, but it's thirsty. That little fuel can I found with it? Nearly dry. I've got maybe a day left, 2 if I ration the juice and cut the power between broadcasts. But that's a gamble. Going dark risks losing you, and I can't stomach that. The old beast in the basement is dead, and the city's grid is a ghost story. If I want to keep talking, I need fuel, and the station's tapped out. That left me one option, the streets. I wrestled with it all night, or what I think was night, since my sense of time's a mess without sunlight or a clock. The idea of leaving these walls made my skin crawl. I've seen shadows in the halls, heard things that don't sound right. But outside? That's a whole new monster. Still, I couldn't just sit here and let the signal die. I found an old city map in a desk drawer, creased and faded, but readable. Circled a few spots, a gas station a block over, a maintenance shed nearby, a couple of streets where cars might still have something in the tank. It was a plan, flimsy as hell, but better than nothing. I geared up like I was heading into battle. Flashlight, check, though the beam's getting weak. Screwdriver, my trusty sidekick. A plastic jug from the break room for siphoning, plus a rubber hose I scavenged from a storage closet. I even grabbed an old station hoodie, oversized, frayed, but dark enough to blend into the shadows. The handheld recorder came too. I'd tape my steps so you'd know what went down. I updated my booth note. Avery, out for fuel. Back soon. If Regina or anyone finds it, they'll know I'm still kicking. Then I took a deep breath, cracked the door, and faced the unknown. The station lobby was my first hurdle. We'd barricaded the front doors way back when this started. Desks, chairs, anything we could pile up. I squeezed through a gap I'd made, though it's scraping my arms as I wiggled out. The street hit me like a slap. Silent, still, and wrong. Cars sat crooked, some with doors hanging open, others with cracked windshields glinting in the faint light. No birds, no wind, just a heavy quiet that pressed on my chest. I crouched behind a counter near the entrance, scanning the scene. Far off, I saw shapes too distant to tell if they were people or something else. They didn't move my way, so I didn't wait to find out. I darted to a small sedan parked askew, its driver's door ajar. No keys, but the gas cap was my target. I fumbled with the hose and jug, hands shaky as I worked the cap loose. I'd seen this in movies, stick the tube in, suck till the gas flows, don't swallow it. Easier said than done. The first try got me a mouthful of fumes, and I gagged, spitting into the dirt. Second time, I felt the liquid hit, and I jammed the hose into the jug. A thin trickle started, slow, but real. My heart lifted for a split second. Maybe this'd work. Then I heard it, scraping, uneven steps behind me. I whipped around, and there it was, a figure, maybe 20 yards off, shambling my way. Torn clothes hung off it like rags, and its head jerked side to side, like it was sniffing the air. My stomach dropped. It stopped, staring right at me, 3 long seconds that stretched into forever. Its breathing rasped, loud even from that distance, and it took a step forward. I didn't think, just grabbed the jug, hose dangling, and bolted for the station. The fuel sloshed, not much, but I'd gotten something. Footsteps thudded behind me, slow but steady, and I didn't look back. I dove through the lobby gap, scraping my knee, and shoved the desk back into place. My chest heaved as I listened. Nothing followed, no banging, just silence. I'd made it, but barely. Back in the booth now, I poured that meager hull into the generator's tank, enough for a day, maybe 2 if I'm stingy. It's running again, the hum a small comfort, but my hands won't stop shaking. That thing out there, it wasn't right. Not a survivor, not anymore. I keep seeing it stare, blank but alive, and it's burned into me. Let's catch our breath, folks. I need it after that. The station's still a shadow box, the lone bulb outside my glass flickering like a heartbeat. I double-check the lobby barricade, piling on an extra chair for good measure. The generator's stable for now, but this close call's a wake-up call. I can't keep scraping by on luck. It's running thin, and the streets aren't safe. I've got to think bigger, plan smarter, or we're done. I keep circling back to Regina. She'd have hated me risking it out there. She was the cautious one, always double-checking the locks. I miss her voice cutting through my panic, the way she'd turn a grim moment into a laugh. We had this bit on air once, riffing about alien invasions. Ironic now, huh? If she's listening, I hope she's proud I didn't freeze up today. Wherever you are, Regina, stay safe. And if you've got someone you're holding on to out there, a friend, a family member, let them fuel you. We're not just surviving for ourselves. The shortwave's still teasing me snatches of sound, a rhythm I can't pin down. I caught "we're here" once, or thought I did, before static ate it. I'm jotting it all down, times and channels, chasing a ghost. If you've got a radio, scan the bands. There's life out there. I'd swear it. Maybe they're hearing me too, wondering who's behind this voice. It's a long shot, but it keeps me going. That siren I mentioned last time? Haven't heard it since. Just a blip in the quiet. Part of me wants to believe it's a sign. Cops, rescuers, someone fighting back. The realist in me says it's a dead battery in a wrecked cruiser, but I'll take the spark it gave me. The world's still out there, chaotic and broken, but not gone. Stepping outside proved that, even if it scared the hell out of me. So what's next? This fuel's a bandage, not a cure. I've got the map, and I'm eyeing that gas station a block away, riskier, but it might have more. Or I could hunt for abandoned cars closer to the station, play it safer. Either way, I need a better weapon than a screwdriver, something to swing if things get ugly. I found an old metal mic stand in the closet. It's heavy, could double as a club. It's not much, but it's a start. Before I went out, I flipped through some old station logs, schedules, DJ notes, little glimpses of normal. One entry stuck with me, from a night shift guy: "Quiet's fine if you've got a reason to keep going." That's me now, alone, but not pointless. This signals my reason. You're my reason. Every word I send out's a lifeline, and I'll keep throwing it as long as I can. Here's the kicker. When I got back, I heard a knock, 3 soft taps on the booth door. I froze, recorder still in hand, and whispered, "Who's there?" Nothing. I asked again, silence. Then 3 more taps, fainter, like an echo. My imagination ran wild. Was it a survivor? A trick? I stayed quiet, waiting, and it stopped. No one's tried since, but it's got me rattled. This place isn't as empty as I'd like, and I'm not sure what's on the other side of that glass. This is Avery, signing off for now. The generator's holding, the mix live, and I'm still breathing, barely. I'll rest, regroup, and figure out my next move. Fuel's the game, and I'm not out yet. Stay tuned, friends. We're still in this fight, and I'm not letting the static win. The backup generator's still chugging, thanks to that dicey run outside I told you about last time. That jug of gas I siphoned from the sedan, barely a gulp, bought me a day or two, but it's a band-aid on a broken leg. The station's a skeleton of itself, lit by a handful of bulbs and the hum of a machine that's running on fumes and grit. My water's down to a few sips. The energy bars are history, and the air in here's so stale it's practically chewing me back. But I'm not done, not yet. This mix my lifeline, and I'll cling to it till the last what dies. After that close call on the street, I couldn't shake the image of that figure, ragged, staring, a heartbeat away from chasing me down. It lit a fire under me. Sitting still wasn't an option. I had to stretch this fuel, find more, or figure out what's next. The map I dug up was my guide, creased and smudged, but it pointed me to a gas station a block over, a maintenance shed, maybe a parked truck with a full tank. Going out again felt like tempting fate, but letting the signal drop felt worse. I decided to prep for one more run, smarter this time, not just scrambling in the dark. I rummaged the station for anything useful. Found a rusty mic stand in a closet. Solid, heavy, better than the screwdriver I'd been clutching like a security blanket. A faded backpack from the break room became my fuel carrier, and I stuffed it with the hose, the jug, and a rag to muffle any clanks. The flashlight was on its last legs, so I swapped its batteries with some I'd scavenged earlier, dim, but workable. I taped a quick update to the booth door. Avery, fuel run number 2. Don't give up on me. If Regina's out there, if anyone finds this place, they'll know I'm still swinging. The lobby was my launch pad again. I squeezed through the barricade, wincing as the desk scraped the floor, and peeked out. The street was a graveyard, cars hunched like corpses, shadows stretching long and thin in the faint haze. No sign of that shambling thing from before, but I wasn't taking chances. I hugged the station wall, mic stand in one hand, backpack slung over my shoulder, and aimed for a pickup truck parked crooked near the curb. Its hood was up, but the gas cap glinted like a promise. I crouched low, darting from cover to cover behind a mailbox, then a busted trash can, ears straining for any sound. The truck was close, maybe 30 feet, when I heard it, a low moan, carried on the still air. I froze, flattening myself against a lamppost. Across the street, a shape lurched into view, torn jacket, dragging one leg, head lolling like it didn't fit right. It didn't see me, just shuffled past, disappearing behind a wrecked SUV. My chest burned from holding my breath, but I waited till it was gone before bolting to the truck. The gas cap popped open easy, and I fed the hose in, sucking till the sharp tang of fuel hit my tongue. It flowed faster this time, a steady stream into the jug, then the backpack when the jug topped off. I'd scored maybe a gallon, enough for a few days if I played it tight. I capped it quick, slung the pack on, and turned back, then stopped dead. Another figure stood at the station's corner, closer than the last one, watching me. Dark eyes glinted in a pale face, and its hands twitched like it was waking up. I gripped the mic stand, ready to swing, but it didn't move, just stared. My legs screamed to run, but I backed away slow, eyes locked on it. Then it turned, melting into the shadows, and I hauled ass through the lobby gap, slamming the barricade shut behind me. Back in the booth now, I dumped that fuel into the generator, hands trembling but triumphant. It's running smooth, maybe a week's worth if I ration hard. The mic stand's propped by the door, a silent guard, and I'm catching my breath, replaying that stare. It didn't chase me, didn't growl, just watched. Was it human once? Still human? I don't know, and it's eating at me. The streets are a minefield, but I've got enough juice to think, to plan, to keep the signal alive a little longer. Let's take a beat, folks. I need it after that heart pounder. The station's still a dim maze, the bulb outside my glass winking like a tired friend. I've been thinking about the old days, Regina and me trading dumb puns on air, the interns scrambling to keep us caffeinated. There was this kid, Jeremy, who'd sneak in one-liners so dry they'd catch you off guard. I hope he's out there, safe, laughing somewhere. Those memories are my shield, my warmth in this cold. If you've got your own, a family cookout, a late-night drive, hold it tight. It's why we're still here, fighting. The shortwave's been whispering again, bits of voices, a pulse in the noise. I caught East Side clear as day, then copy you before it drowned out. My notebook's full of scribbles, times, frequencies, guesses. It's someone, I'd bet my last drop of water on it. If you're scanning, keep at it. Maybe they're hearing me too, reaching back. The station's near the old water tower, east side of town. If that rings a bell, if you've got a signal to send, I'm listening. Let's find each other. That siren from before? Silent since, but it stuck with me. A flicker of the world beyond these walls. Maybe it's rescuers, maybe it's just echoes, but it's proof something's still ticking out there. Inside, though, I've had another scare. Right before this broadcast, I heard taps, 3 soft knocks on the booth door. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. 3 more, fainter, then nothing. I sat still, recorder rolling, waiting for a crash that never came. It's not the first time, and it's got me jumpy, friend or foe, I can't tell, but something's close. So where do I stand? The generator's got fuel, the signal's holding, and I'm alive, barely. I could hunker down, stretch this haul as long as it lasts, but that's just delaying the end. Or I could push further, hit that gas station, find a stash, maybe a safer spot. The map's my guide, and I've marked the tower as a landmark. If there's a group out there, if East Side means something, I might risk it. For now, I'll rest, recharge, and keep this mic on. The mic stands my new best friend. Next time, I won't just run. I flipped through some old station files earlier, promo scripts, fan letters, a time capsule of normal. One note hit me, from a listener: "Your show's my morning light. It's why I'm here, why I'll keep talking." If I'm that light for you, even now, it's worth it. We're not just surviving. We're connecting, proving we're not alone. The quiet outside's unnerving. No shuffles, no thumps, like the building's waiting. It makes me wonder if something's shifted, if those watchers have moved on, or if they're just biding their time. I'll peek soon, cautious as hell, but for now, I'm here with you. The generator's low hum, the mix's steady buzz, it's our heartbeat, and I'll keep it going. This is Avery, signing off for now, but not for good. We've scratched out a victory, fuel in the tank, a signal still cutting through the dark, and a stubborn hope that won't quit. I'll keep this mic alive, keep reaching out, because every word we share is a thread tying us together in this mess. If you're out there, listening, don't just sit in the silence. Grab a radio, scan the waves, send me a sign. We're stronger when we connect, so let's find each other. Drop a message on any frequency you can. Tell me where you are, what you've seen. Hell, just say hi. This is our fight, our story, and I'm not letting it end here. Stay tuned, friends. Keep your dials locked on 107.3 FM. We've got more to say, and I'll be back to say it. Okay. If Avery's journey hit you like it hit me, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button down below. It's your ticket to more stories like this, more voices that refuse to fade. We're building a crew here, a bunch of folks who love a good tale and a good fight. Ring that bell too, so you don't miss the next drop, whether it's Avery's next chapter or a whole new adventure. Got thoughts? Drop them in the comments. Tell me what you'd do in her shoes, or just yell out to her across the static. Let's keep this signal strong, together. Thanks for listening, friends. See you in the next one.